Well, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for your time, everybody. I'd just like to tell you about a new project that has started at my university here in South Africa, the Rhisotope Project, where we are aiming to use nuclear science techniques to devalue rhino horn, and I'll tell you why we're going to do this and what the reasons for. Just a quick background about myself. I'm the director of the Radiation Health Physics Unit, which is not a traditional conservation position, if you would like, but it's quite important for where this project's coming from. I have a background in nuclear security and radiation protection over the last 25 years. I used to work on the gold mines. More recently, I've been doing a lot of work in nuclear security. And this has brought me to the point where we've been able to sort of set up this project. So what is the situation at the moment in the world? Well, as you can see from the presentation here, numbers of rhinos are being poached, and actually the numbers are declining catastrophically in the last 10 years. The Kruger National Park, which some of you might have heard of, it's a piece of land on the eastern border of South Africa, approximately the size of Israel. They've seen 70% of their rhino population decreased by 70% over the last 10 years. And this is in large part to poaching. COVID brought it to a halt for a while, but as the lockdown has eased in South Africa, then the numbers have gone back up. So we are seeing an increase in the number of animals poached, and you're going to see this number here certainly is going to be elevated over the next year or so, which is somewhat distressing. So a bit about the Rhisotope Project. It was actually founded earlier this year. It had been an idea on a piece of paper of mine for a couple of years, but I think because of COVID, I used to do a lot of international traveling, as you saw on my CV. Nowadays, though, I've kind of been stuck at home, stuck in my office for the last 500 and something days. And so turned my attention to this project, which had been going. And why do we want to try and reduce poaching? Well, it has a very, the presence of rhino in Southern Africa is great for tourism, job creation. People come to places like Kenya, to come to South Africa to see the big five. They were traditionally animals in the bad old days, if you like, when hunters used to go hunting and they want to be able to shoot the big five, which is nowadays the buffalo, the elephant, the rhino, the leopard, and prize for anyone else who can remember what the other one is off the top of your head. But it's important for tourism, job creation and job preservation in this country. Tourism is an important income generation for this part of the world. Rhino, and this is very appropriate what we're talking about, they are very important for habitat preservation and development. Rhino, by their presence in a particular habitat, will ensure a far greater diversity of biota in a particular ecosystem. The white rhinos are grazing a lot of the grass, so they will graze the grass down low, which allows other types of grasses and plants to grow. The black rhino will graze shrubs, again allowing a much more diverse biota to grow. Then there is guardianship. I mean, do I want to be the generation that talks to our grandchildren and say, oops, it was on my fault, it was on my generation which allowed this iconic species to die out? Who wants to be able to have their grandchildren sat on their lap, show them a textbook or showing them a book and saying, yeah, it was our fault, we lost these animals because we took no action? And frankly, the final one, I was in a position, I'm sick and tired of seeing videos of these mutilated animals. And I realized, there's always that expression, somebody should do something about it. I realized I could possibly be that person. So along with a couple of other people, we've set up this whole project. So what is it? Well, basically, the idea is to devalue rhino horn by the insertion of a small quantity of radioactive material into the horn. And the reason to do this is to devalue the horn in the eyes of the end user. There's an old expression, no buying, no dying. If we can stop the end user wanting to use the horn, then perhaps we have a chance to look after and save these animals. There are a couple of different markets currently for end users, if you like. There is the traditional medicine. Now, nowadays, there is a growing awareness in those parts of the world where rhino horn has been used for traditional medicine, that there are alternative herbs available. And there has been quite a considerable campaign by some of the users, the practitioners, that this horn is not a desirable thing. However, there are a number of other uses, including what we call the conspicuous consumer. These are people who want to demonstrate their newly acquired wealth and be able to, show off their money. It's akin to those videos of people burning their $100 notes and things like that. And they have taking rhino horn, ground up rhino horn, and including it into expensive alcoholic drinks and claiming this is the drink of champions. Now, this is a sort of market where we want to seriously push back. Also, there is the giving of rhino horn as gifts, either as you can see in the picture, sort of carved artifacts, or oftentimes as what they would call a wild horn. That is the horn where you can see in the picture where it's still got the indent in the bottom of the horn, and the only way that that has been accumulated is that it has been hacked out of a rhino, either living or dead, and we want to do something about that. The other strand to our project is that by incorporating a certain small quantity of radioactive material in the horn, we make this horn more readily traceable. It's easier to track, because if we choose the right quantity, then we will be able to detect these horns as they are moved through portal monitors. Now, bearing in mind, globally, because of the results of a lot of work in many different countries on nuclear security, the upgrading of facilities, portal monitors have been established at ports, airports, harbours, border crossings, and there's something like 11,000 of these portal monitors that have been installed globally. And going along with that, obviously, there are the border agents who are skilled in the use of this machinery, but these border agents, customs agents, they all carry, or many of them indeed carry, portable radiation monitors. So whereas we've gone from the point where at each border crossing there might be one or two people who are skilled in searching using x-rays or doing physical searches or working with canines to search for this sort of horn, we have radically increased, dare I say, the army of people who are capable now of intercepting these horns. And so then we are being able to push back on the smugglers. So as I said there, so the Rhisotope Project, we're currently in a situation where we are working for a proof of concept. That is, I need to be able to demonstrate that whatever we're proposing to do is, if you like, to the regulator, is both justified, the doses are optimized, and the doses there are dose limits applied. So that's for those of you in the room who have a background in radiation protection. From this, we will need to develop a radiological safety assessment. This is very important because I will need to use this document to be able to demonstrate to stakeholders, so the animal owners, to other people, that what we are going to do won't harm the animals, but will achieve the effects that we are looking to do. Because you have to understand, these animals are endangered, they are expensive to purchase, and obviously we need to be able to persuade owners that what we want to be able to do with these animals is safe for these animals, but at the same time increases the level of protection that they might be available to them. So this is where we are at the moment, is in this proof of concept And I've broken the work down into a number of different phases. The first phase, which is coming to the end at the moment, is we've inserted stable isotopes into the horn, because we need to be able to demonstrate that whatever goes into the horn stays in the horn, and there's no movement back from the horn back into the body of the animal. We also need to be able to do a certain amount of simulation of isotopes into various transport situations, because we need to be able to demonstrate that, you know, by putting a certain quantity into the horn, that we are able to do what we claim, which is set off the portal monitors and thereby intercept these horns which are being moved. The next part of it is obviously we need to do dose assessments, because again, it's all very well saying, oh, it's not going to harm, but we need to be able to demonstrate that what we are doing by putting the isotopes into the horns is not going to harm the animals. And so this is where we are going to use some sort of medical physics programs, computer-based programs, and do some dose assessments. Not quite as easy as it sounds, because getting the fundamental data about rhinos is quite hard. It's not that easy to be able to go and do a CT scan of a rhino head. But fortunately, there are one or two places in the world where we can do this sort of thing, gather the sort of CT images, which will allow us then to do this computer assessment. We also need to be able to say, okay, we've done the computer modeling. We want to be able to do some confirmatory measurements. So we are building a full-sized head of a rhino using 3D printing at the university. I approached the engineers at the Faculty of Engineering and said, guys, do you want to do a 3D printed of a rhino head? They thought about it for a moment and said, yeah, that sounds like some fun. So we're going to build that, and then we'll use that to do confirmatory measurements, because we'll put an isotope into the horn of this phantom that we're building. And then around the head in various cavities and things like that, we will insert TLD chips, thermoluminescent dosimeter chips, which we can then use to assess the doses. For part of our radiological safety assessment, we will need to make sure that people who are doing the work on the animals at the point of insertion or at subsequent veterinary treatment work are not going to be harmed by any particular doses. And we will also need to look about, you know, what are the potential doses to end users should a horn get that far down the chain. And these are just some of the images there that we've been working with. And I have to say thank you to Ohio State University for making some of this information available to us. What I would like also to say that this is, all of this work is using nuclear science techniques, which I think have been brought together in a way which we've not seen before, and certainly in sort of terms of trying to, you know, conservation. And it's, again, coming from my background, so I say it's not a traditional conservation type project, but I think it's hopefully the outcome of it will be successful. The next steps, where are we going from here? Well, we need to do obviously a radiological safety assessment. We need to do the justification. I need to demonstrate to both the regulator and to owners of these animals that what we are planning to do is safe for these animals. From there, then we will need to approach the regulator with our radiological safety assessment. I will also need to have to speak to my university's animal ethics committee and demonstrate to them what we are planning to do is safe. We've already been through one session with the ethics committee to be able to say, this is the work we wanted to do with the stable isotopes. They were happy for us to do that under the appropriate supervision. The next step then is we will looking to get 15 or 20 animals where we will insert radioisotopes into their horns, and then they will follow them to ensure there's no abnormality in growth of the horn or any changes in behavior. And then from that point, once we've completed our proof of concept, then it's an implementation phase where we will be looking to roll this whole idea out. We want to share it with anybody who is interested in learning how to do it. either in Southern Africa, in East Africa, in India, wherever there happens to be a population of rhino who are at risk, and we'd be very happy to share this technique on a, pretty much a free basis. If you want me to come and teach someone how to do it, or then obviously we'll look for a bit of assistance in travel. I can't come to the end of this conversation without talking about the collaborators, because as you can see, we have a number of collaborators, and I must at this point thank ROSATOM, who are the founding sponsors, without which we wouldn't be able to have done any of this work. And they, when I approached ROSATOM Central and Southern Africa with the idea, I think they thought about it for about 10 seconds before said, yes, we are on board with this. But then there are a number of different organizations which you can see here. Colorado State are one of my friends and colleagues we're working with on doing the dose assessments. ANSTO, some of you might, which is the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organization, they have helped us with imaging and doing sharing of information. Then NEXA, which is the Nuclear Energy Corporation of South Africa, we're working very closely with them on the development of the appropriate radioisotopes and also the best technique to insert the isotopes into the horns. And then there's Incala Veterinary Services, who's been the sort of supervising veterinary surgeon when we've been doing all the work. A gentleman by the name of Will Fowlds, and he's been the guy who has I've been able to bounce these ideas off, and he has guided me in some ways, and then been there to help us do the actual tranquilization and immobilization of these two animals. And here is my final slide for the day. I'd like to present to you Igor and Denver. They are the two rhinos with which we did the initial work, and they are in Buffalo Kloof, a game farm in the Eastern Cape, who graciously agreed to make these animals available to us to do this fundamental work. And like all of these things, this work does cost money. I'm entirely and very appreciative to the money that's been put up by ROSATOM thus far. But for the next stages, for the implementation phase, we will also be looking to raise additional money. So anybody who is interested, perhaps you want to use the link here, and that will take you through to all of our social media and places and things like that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.